To it. Hey, it's great to meet you, Clay. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you, first of all, providing the space. Second of all, putting the effort that you have. I've dived through a lot of your shows because I usually like do research before I get on the show.
Yeah,
And the intensity that you bring, man, it's amazing. Like you just got so much energy and passion. I can really tell you care about having great conversations.
yeah,
So thank you.
yeah, absolutely, man. I am totally fueled by all of the good things that are happening in the world. And there's so many wonderful people that are just doing it and getting it done. So it's always a joy. So your background's amazing, and I want to get into it. And I always ask, and I got to a point where I didn't want to talk about COVID anymore, but it was such a huge moment for all of us. So
Yeah,
ultimately, how much of getting through the global pandemic affected the way that you do work and who you are today,
not much, really.
right?
So because I live in Thailand and because I'm on the other side of the world and the majority, I'd argue 94, 95% of my clients are based in the States or Canada.
Yeah,
I was working remotely anyway.
yeah,
So if anything, it just improved my business because more people went online and so I had more clients to work with. The subset of that is I was the architect of my downfall because I was so stupid. Like I was like, oh, look at me, I'm this big swing, and you know what? Like I can do anything. And so I then went and meddled with something that I shouldn't, which well, that's not true. I jumped into app development because I'm like, I have this amazing idea. It's going to help change the personal development space. It's so perfect. Like it's going to change everything.
yeah.
And really, I didn't know anything about tech. So, like, it crashed and burned $500,000 my own money into an app. And then, because I put so much energy into that, I crashed and burned tank my coaching practice. So, nothing really changed except that I crashed and burned everything because I was doing well. And then, like, I've been rebuilding and like picking it up. So, like, I had a very small network, but the relationship that I had with that network, everyone talks about the power of your net worth is your network.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's not about the number of people that you have in your network. It's about the quality of the network. And I don't mean like, are they billionaires or not? I mean the quality of the relationships and the connections you have with them. And I torched so many because I had like so many people sign up for this app and it's never got delivered. It's like 2 more weeks, man. Sorry, 2 more weeks. Sorry, 2 more weeks. And there's only so many times you can tell people 2 more weeks before like, you know what? Screw you, buddy. So I torched that. So it did kind of change a bit because I had to then tweak things, but for the most part, like I had the best fun during COVID because Phuket was like a zombie apocalypse. There was no one here. So there's a street down in Patong. It's like the place people go out, right? It's like I can't remember what the name is of that strip in Cancun where everyone goes and all the bars are. But if you've ever been to Cancun, you know it's like that one. It's like the Sunset Strip or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like that. And at 9 p.m. on a Friday night, you usually can't get anywhere. There's traffic, there's trucks, there's people going everywhere. I was doing a somewhat increased speed, shall we say, going through there, and there was no one, not even dogs, nothing, at 9 p.m. on a Friday night during what would have been the peak of a tourist season.
Yeah.
And so the island was quiet. We had sea turtles coming and laying eggs again on the island, which hadn't happened in like 50 years.
Wow.
The wildlife was, the wildlife, not the fish, which is technically wildlife, was coming back. So like the surf was empty. So my experience of COVID, like for myself and my mental health, was good in that regard. It sucked because my grandmother died alone in hospital, and that's brutal. And I think that was a really, really poor management decision by every single government in the world. And I think they've got a lot to answer for, and they're not answering for it. I think that's really quite a shame of all these beautiful old people that ended up dying alone away from their families. It's wrong, and
Yeah.
people shouldn't have to die alone. But for the most part, not much change. Like it was life as it was before.
Yeah.
I'd work from home. I'd go out, not like out to parties. I'd go out for a surf. I'd go out and trek in the jungle. It was pretty good.
So I'm curious, it's interesting you mentioned going through that street with no one around. Someone at one point, I think it was in June of 2020, was right next to Times Square in New York and telling me how empty it was. And it blew my mind. Like there was nothing going on. It was a rainy day, and that's another unheralded thing to even comprehend that New York would be that desolate, but it was a very apocalyptic, strange time. I'm curious. The one thing about being an entrepreneur is that you always hear, and I know it's a little bit cliche, you always hear that you learn from your failures just as much as you
Mhm.
do from your successes. What did you ultimately learn from this venture not turning out, losing the network, losing the money? How has that made you become a phoenix and rebound?
So there's a couple of things. The first thing is that through one of my mentors, Chad Hughes, and through a lot of the study that I've done throughout the years, it became like so apparent, like just smashing me in the face with a sledgehammer, that I fell victim to what everyone has potential to fall victim to the point where the reason why they did the Milgram experiment. You know the Milgram experiment,
Yeah,
Stanley Milgram?
yeah,
Right. The reason why that was done was the exact same thing that I fell victim to. That all started because all the German officers in World War II said I was just following orders. And he's like, there's no way that that's possible. And so they've repeated the Milgram experiment like 19, 20 different times all over the globe with almost identical results,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
People just bow down to authority. And I had given authority to someone who knew more than me, who was more of an expert in that domain. And so my agency went away and I gave the agency to that person. So I take a step back now and I'm always asking myself, what am I giving away here? Like what am I paying attention to? What's the conscious thing that I'm doing? And subconsciously, what is happening in this process? And I bring it into my conscious awareness so that I see if I'm pulling myself down into a trap, like into this quicksand where I now can't get out because I shouldn't even got into it in the first place. That's the first thing that I took out of it. The second thing that I took out of it is that commitment is a big thing for me, right? And I was fully committed to that project. The issue was I got committed to the wrong thing. I got committed to building an app. And then when I broke it down and rehashed it after burning as much money as I did, I realized what I was actually committed to was creating a new system, a new way of helping people. And that's really where, if my focus had been there, I would have pulled the pin on the app way before the well over $500,000 and maybe lost 120 grand. And I wouldn't have taken my coaching business in the process. So it becomes more about, okay, staying not true to the path, but staying true to the outcome, right? I'm going to screw this up and I apologize. I'm pretty sure it's not Eisenhower, it's one of the other generals, and his name, like I can see it in my head. And I'm going to mess up, so I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not going to quote it. And he says, tell a man what to do, and he'll surprise you with his ingenuity. Never tell him how to do it.
yeah.
And it's one of the best generals that you guys have ever produced. Oh, this is going to grind me. It's going to come up later. So it's
Is
just going to pop up.
is it Westmoreland?
No, no, it's not Westmoreland.
But it's
Man,
it's it's older. It's not like Schwarzkopf or someone like that.
no, 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 no. We're talking like World War II era. Ah, this is going to frustrate me.
Google's our friend. Google is our good friend. What did we do before that? Like when we got to a really big fix, I think it just had to happen right before you went to bed and just remember to write it down on a legal pad.
Well, I mean, that also works, right?
Yeah, it certainly does. So as you look that up, I'm curious now in kind of the afterglow of living through all of this and your regenerative kind of mindset right now. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day,
Yeah.
and one of the kids in the back of the room is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do
Mhm.
you sum that up today?
Uh, that is a great question if I was to answer it to a kid. I've never been asked the question of how I'd say it to a kid. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
As a side note, General Patton is the
Okay. That's it. That's the other big
right.
one. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. How would I explain what I do to a 5-year-old? Well, that's going to be really interesting because my daughter tells people that I sit on the computer and I talk to people and make them feel better.
Yeah.
So there's that.
That's it.
Um,
That's great.
you know,
Yeah.
what I actually say I do is I show people how to actually use their brain on purpose.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Take me back to when you were 12 years old. What was your dream? Did you always want to be in the military? What-
Oh man. The only thing I could tell you right now, the only thing I could say is that I have a recollection and I've got a drawing from when I was like maybe 8 or something like that. And everything was about race cars, and I wanted to be a Formula One race driver.
Okay.
When you get on, like maybe another 5 or 6, 7 years after that, I wanted to be like an Apache gunship pilot.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was that was it. It always had to do with going fast.
Yeah.
Like
I,
it's always been the thing, right? That I have no idea why. I don't know why I have this addiction to speed, but that's kind of been the thing.
where did you grow up, geographically speaking? Where
Western
were you?
Australia, Perth.
Okay.
So
All
on the
right.
West Coast.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What were these foundational elements that led to you wanting the speed, wanting to get into the military, now helping people? How did this happen?
I don't know. I really don't know. The wanting to get into the military, I didn't really care about the military per se. Like there wasn't a thing for me. The thing was like I just was fascinated with helicopters because you got this thing in the air that should not be in the air,
Yeah.
right? It defies physics. I mean, it doesn't really defy physics, but technically they're not supposed to fly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and the second you turn power off, they don't fly and they just drop
Yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so there's kind of that piece, I guess. I'm really guessing here. I couldn't tell you, but the technology of it really fascinated me. And I think the other part of it was I grew up even as a little kid watching those 80s action flicks where there's one guy coming in and like destroying an army and
Yeah.
like I could be that guy. I don't know, but I'm guessing that's what it was. And I kind of like admired those guys. I'm like, look at this cool guy. Look at Stallone. He's just taken out the whole Viet Cong. Like, I could just
Rambo.
go be that guy.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all completely mind brushed. I mean, to the point, like I was such an interesting child to myself as I look back. Have you ever read Roald Dahl's George's Marvelous Medicine?
No, I haven't. I know about the book though. Yeah.
Okay. So this boy is like picked on by his grandmother, and she's like just a horrible human being to him. And so he decides that he's going to make some medicine to fix her up and like to make her better and like whatever. And so he goes and he puts everything in this thing, man. He puts paint thinner, he puts shoe polish, he puts shaving cream, he puts shampoo, he puts horse pills, cow pills, pig pills, like you name it, he puts in and he feeds it to her. I'm like, you know what? I could probably make one of those. And so I started collecting all the stuff from the house and started making my own medicine just to see what it was. Fortunately, my mum came home before I started testing the medicine because it would have killed me.
Yeah.
But like, I got really absorbed into whatever I was doing. Like, oh, maybe I could do that. Let's just go see. And I was just super, super curious about things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the curiosity is probably the biggest part of it. I think there's another part of it that the whole adrenaline and the rush.
Yeah.
And like I still quite enjoy extreme sports. I still surf. I used to ride motorbikes. I don't really ride them anymore so much. I haven't ridden for a few years. Um, but yeah, the extreme sport thing's always been a thing. Like rock climbing is a pretty big thing. It's not extreme in terms of the speed, but the height and, overcoming that and risking your life because if you mess up, you can die. Like, it's high risk.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably more the draw is that it's about high risk, high reward.
Are you a cat guy?
Nope.
Seems like because that's very cat-like. The curiosity, the daredevil, always landing on your feet. even no matter how crazy it is.
Well,
It
I don't
just,
know about always landing on my feet.
well,
So, no, so hold on, I'll give you a very little example. So when I joined the military, in my first Christmas leave, I flew back to Perth from Melbourne. That night, I came home, saw my mum, my dad, said hi, and then one of my buddies picked me up, and we drove where my parents used to live was about 15 minutes from one of the biggest rowing sheds for like the elite schools in Perth. And so I went down to this rowing shed to this work party that my friend had on, and I woke up 4 days later in hospital. So apparently, I have no idea how true this is. I don't remember a damn thing. Some people said that a fight broke out between me and this other guy. I got thrown through a balcony railing, not over it, through it. It shattered. And I fell 12 and a half feet headfirst on the concrete, and I've still got the divot in my skull. And so I kind of had to like learn and walk the talk again, and like go through this process. So I can promise you, I do not land on my feet.
yeah, no, that's proof right there.
Yeah,
So,
like if you need a proof, like 9 lives, maybe,
yeah,
that's
right.
that's
There you
possible.
go. That's a part. So, who's been an inspiration? Who's been that heroic force for you to become and evolve into who you are today?
I don't know that it's really anyone else that has become a force for me to evolve. I think it was more of an internal thing that I got to a point where, as much as, and I've had to admit this a couple of times recently because I'm getting on a podcast, and I've never had to do it public before, and it sucks to admit this publicly, right? But there was a very long part of my life, at least the first 20 odd years, where I was just a total victim. And I didn't realize it. Like I went out with great women, I had great times, I got good friends, but I'd always see things from an angle where it was, okay, these people are screwing me over, or this person's doing something to me. And I never ever looked at how I'm contributing, more to the point, how I'm creating the problem. And then it became like a snap when what ended up happening was I got knocked back for a promotion. There was a lot of extenuating circumstances. But truth be told, if you look back, I definitely didn't deserve the promotion at the time. I didn't.
Yeah,
But at the time, the way I justified it, my behavior, which I still believe the way I responded was justified. It was stupid, but it was justified. And I was on my way to work very quickly, and there was a complication at the airport. You know how good that is, right? When you have complications with people at airports who happen to be staff at airports. Anyway, so this lazy lady made a formal complaint about me. It got to the rig put a complaint in, and then because I had that incident, they deemed me not fit for promotion. And so then I made this big thing about it, like this woman is like rude to everyone, and everyone agreed with me, like, yeah, she is. She's a bitch. She's this. She's rude to everyone, but you just got to put up with it, and like you don't tolerate, and you just ignore it. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me because if she's rude to everyone, then it's not me that's the problem. But when the promotion got taken away from me after it was given to me, then it got taken away, I got annoyed by it. And then I started looking at my life and started paying attention. And it was just obvious, like inescapable truth. The only common denominator through all these things was me. And so if I wanted something different, this is what kind of got me into coaching. It didn't really, but it did. I was like, okay, I need to learn how to make people do what I want. That was my motivation. This is how much of a victim I was. Can you grasp that? Like, it wasn't, okay, I need to change myself. It was like, no, I'm going to learn how to manipulate and influence people to the point that I can tell them to do things and they'll do things.
yeah,
But I was still a piece of trash, man. I still had all these issues and all these problems. And so if I've still got all these issues and problems, as I soon found out, the 2.5 years that I spent learning language patterns were a waste of time because they were responding to the person using language patterns. And so I was just a chump. And so it became like a huge thing. So I wouldn't necessarily say someone like championed it, other than there was a huge amount of realization and a heavy amount of pain that I was sitting under when I realized I am the architect of all my pain.
And you've turned that into helping people find the light, helping them find their purpose. How do you protect yourself and take care of your soul while you dip into heavy stuff with your clients? How does that work for you?
It's pretty simple. So a lot of the times, this is going to sound very strange for, especially considering the role I do. I have a very low rating of compassion. All the compassion that I have had to work extremely hard to get. I don't know why. I cannot tell you why. It could be from conditioning from my parents. It could just be something innate in my DNA. I don't know. I really don't. But what that allowed me to do was to go through other people's feelings, not get sucked in by them. And so what I acquired was cognitive compassion as opposed to connecting with the emotion. Like, okay, I get it. This person is in trouble. They are feeling bad. So I need to change the way I approach this, but I don't get sucked into their feelings. And the strange part of that, that I'd say that has really shifted things, Joe, is that it has made me a better coach because of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't get sucked in, because there never was this thing of, so a lot of people say, okay, I'm going to get in the hole with you. I don't want to get in the hole with someone. I'm going to help them get out of the hole. Getting in the hole means getting into the weeds and getting into their problem. I don't need to be inside their problem with them. People just need to understand from my experience, like they don't need someone in there feeling all their pain. Some might, and that's okay. I'm not arguing with that. What I found is they need to see that someone genuinely cares and someone genuinely wants to help. And if they can get that from you and they can read between the lines, which a lot of people can see that when you genuinely want to help, then they start showing up in a different way. And the way that they show up, even though it might be tough for them, even though it might be challenging, even though it might be hard, it just becomes the way forward because they know that you are there to support them.
Yeah. So, of everything that you've done in your life, accomplished, and most importantly, evolved to, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Ugh, right now, I don't know. That's a tough thing. So, professionally wise, it'd be the book because that was a big challenge. Personally wise, I am pretty hard on myself. I have other people say that I'm a good dad. I say that I could be doing much better. Um, I never wanted to be a father. It wasn't something that was on my wish list. Uh, it wasn't planned. And at the same time, it wasn't planned because I dislike kids or I hate kids. It wasn't planned because I didn't want the responsibility for another human being. Because if you rewind, let's say 10 years ago, I was just a walking trash receptacle, man.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't responsible for myself, let alone to be responsible for someone else. It didn't make any sense. It was just stupid and such a short-sighted view. And I wasn't in love with the idea of having kids and in love with the idea of, okay, now I got to look after this human being. And I couldn't look after myself. So my kids are definitely like a huge achievement and they're helping me grow as well. And they're showing me like a mirror, like all the junk that I'm still carrying. But I would say that that would have to be the thing other than the book. The book's professional and then personally, I'm doing an okay job with the kids. I can still do better and I will do better. But for right now, they're pretty good little humans.
So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone you
Oh, yeah.
work with, clients, everyone that gets your book, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? That's a good question. How do you want me to answer that? Because there's the whole esoterical version of that, which goes into the fact. So I had what some people would call a download, right? Do you know who Alan Watts is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I've listened to probably 1,000 hours of lectures from Alan Watts,
Yeah.
like a lot. I just listen to it on loop over and over again because I really enjoy his take and his understanding and the philosophy that he brought in. And he gave a really good take to the Western world of what Buddhism is and what Hinduism is and the Tao ways and stuff like that. And I thought that the way that he brought that through was really resonating. And I was sitting in front of my computer at a house we used to live in. And I was just working away on something that had nothing to do with my identity or connection or anything. And I just got like hit. And I had this crazy sensations firing through my body. I had heat shifting. I had like electricity firing through. I had shivers going all through my spine. It was the most insane experience that I've had. A great experience. And in that, what became clear was that this this version of how I'm showing up at this point in time is just this is gets where it gets weird, right? But it is how the Big Bang is showing up at this point in time, and that we're all still the continuation of the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And this is just how this is showing up at this point in time. And I was like, okay, well that's who I am. And then the other who I am is just a stream of consciousness because I don't label myself with the whole thing like I am an author. That's not part of my identity, right? It's not who I am. It's something I do. I wrote a book.
Yeah.
I don't say I am a coach. I do coaching. I practice coaching. Right? I don't identify with my work. I do identify with being a father. Absolutely. I do identify with being a partner, a friend, those kind of elements.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the professional things, I was like, no.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing for me to answer.
Yeah. But you did a great job answering it. So I'm curious if anyone wants to pick up your book, they want to hire you, they want to reach out, what's the best way to do that?
The fastest way to get in touch is on X because I'm on there pretty much every day, and that's just at Moffat Clay. If they want the book, go to the website, trusttrekbook.com.
Okay. I will put all those links in the show notes. Clay, this has been wonderful. Thank you, man. Thank you for your story. Thank you for being raw and open. I really appreciate it, man. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.